What's up, guys? It's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I figured we'd go into tonight's games. I'll be going into college as well, but I actually like the schedule, so we're basically playing most of these games. Uh, we did all right. Last night we split again in the NBA. For the NFL, I did a separate video on that. We did have the Bills covering, so we got backdoored there and missed the over. I made those leg ones just because I didn't love them. I went into that in my last video. And for the NBA, we split because we got the first game, which I actually believed in the Lakers game more, but we missed that one. They covered by 5. We needed 6, so we split the NBA. So early sample size, but we're 6-4 so far on NBA games, and that does include picking of the 10 games. I think we've picked 4 straight up underdogs for like plus 130 or better. So that's what I intend on continuing doing, getting good odds. So anyway, we're going to add to that small sample size today because I'm playing most of the games, and I like them for different reasons. So the first one's the Hornets. I think they're going to cover again. I think they're going to win and cover. I really do believe they got rid of Michael Jordan, and they're going to want to make them look really good without him. I think it's some kind of shaming ritual. And it's interesting at the same time, Dion's killing it in college football. I feel like all this stuff is connected. So I do wonder if I know people were bringing up connections with LeBron because he was just hanging out with, Shador and Travis and Dion. But I think it's all connected. So it's interesting. Jordan had the worst career in the history of an NBA owner, and now he was obviously a coach too, and now you have Dion, who's the face of the foundation and he's thriving. So I do think that there's a little bit of shame going on for Michael. And I think, Ball, I think Miller, it seems like you can tell NBA players' trajectory really early on. Like, it's just pretty obvious. Like, and a guy in the NFL, a receiver, will have like 200 yards one week, and then for 4 weeks, he won't do anything, like a rookie. In the NBA, typically, a rookie's not going to go off of 40, at least a high prospect, and then not do much. They're usually going to do about the same thing every game, get slightly better. So Miller started off as he was more of an option than Wemby was. So I think they're going to progress Miller at the fastest rate, even faster than Scoot, at least in year one. So I like the Hornets to cover. I think their guys are going to look pretty good. And they have, like I said, it's probably not going to have a lot of money on either team. The public team tends to avoid two crappy teams, but I think the Hornets are definitely going to win more for narrative purposes, and I like them to cover. I'll go into exactly all like the increments. Some of these are parlays. Well, one's a parlay, but it's a good plus odds one. And there's there's a contingency game I have. So it's 2 contingency games because one's contingent on the other. So I'll go into that. But I just wanted to cover who I like first. Nuggets, I like the Grizzlies to cover them because it's the same line as the Nuggets were getting against the Lakers, who they just played in the conference finals. So I don't really think the Grizzlies are as formidable as the Lakers. And I get that they're at home, and the Nuggets are really good at home, so that would explain why it was only a 5.5 point spread with the Lakers and them. But even still, no Ja. I think publics are going to be on the Nuggets. They haven't looked weak. I think this would be the game that the Grizzlies come out and again, I don't think they're going to do much in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to be, even when Ja comes back, I think there's going to be some punishment. But I still think the public's going to majorly be on the Nuggets in this game. So I do like the Grizzlies for the cover. This next one, Hawks. We've had a pretty good read on the Hawks last year. This year so far, obviously only one game, but we were able to get the upset. I think the Hawks are going to get this game. I like them to cover because I do think the Knicks are going to wind up teasing a trade or doing a trade. They keep talking about trying to land Embiid. So I think and they have Mitch Robinson. So that's why I think, even though they have him, obviously they're trying to shake things up and make them a little more marketable or believable. And you have the narrative of Trey being, the Knicks' dad, where he just goes in there and destroys them. So between both of those things, I don't think either of these teams are going to do much this year. Like I said, I think they're going to be a red herring of a red herring. Like just hanging in there, probably very similar to last year. And the Knicks will probably start off slow until they make a trade, in my opinion. They'll probably dish Randall and someone, maybe a bunch of fake picks for Embiid or something. But I think the Hawks will wind up covering this game. Heat Celtics. This is one of my contingency games. It's the doubleheader on ESPN, and we split them every time so far. We've only had two of them, but we split them both. We haven't gone 0-2 yet, so that's just my logic. As long as we don't go 0-2, it'll work out. So hopefully we don't. But I like the Celtics to cover. This will be leg 2 for 2 units, and I'll go into that again in a minute. But I like the Celtics cover because I think it's a high cover. Whenever you have a team that just went to the finals and they're the biggest underdog of the night, it's interesting. Now, again, there's injuries and stuff like that. They always lie about these injuries, but even with all that, I still think not a lot of people are going to be on 9 points for a cover. Both teams didn't look overly impressive in their first game. Celtics won, Heat won, but not by any crazy margin. So I think of the two games, more people will be on the Heat money line and probably on the spread. So that's going to be for 2 units as a leg 2. And like I said, I'll be going into the contingency in a minute. Thunder, Cavs. I like the Thunder to win straight up, just because I think they're going to continue pushing them. Again, I think they're going to be better than they were last year when they were just a play-in team. I think they could probably be a playoff team this year, or at least a 7-8 seed versus I think they were a 10 seed last year and got immediately eliminated by the T-Wolves. Cavaliers, I like Donovan Mitchell as far as his draw factor. I think they do like him, but I also don't think they're going to do anything crazy with him. I think SGA is definitely the bigger draw. I think he's going to be in the MVP race along with Luka, just because I like Luka because of the international appeal. SGA is from Canada, I believe, but they already had a Canadian win, so why not add Slovenia to the list so they can have like a 4th or 5th international country. They already got Giannis, obviously. They just got Joker twice, so Embiid. So they might go back to an American, and maybe next year will be the year for Luka. But either way, I think SGA will be in the race. So I like the Thunder to win outright. I think they get off to a nice start, maybe like the Detroit Lions. I'm not playing the Raptors Bulls. I just think it's a complete coin flip. I also had a bad read on these teams last year, so I don't expect to have a great read on them this year. We did get the one Bulls game right that we picked, but I still don't love them. So I'm just staying away from this game. This time I'm going with the Rockets to cover the Spurs. I'm taking the 2 points because I could see it being a 1 or 2 point game. But this game I expect Wemby to be a favorite, even though he didn't do great in game 1 against the Mavs. They made a point of saying how he wasn't an option. I think that was on purpose so they can, quote, have Popovich mold him. And again, I say real or fake because if you believe it's real, that's fine. I believe it's scripted. But either way, if a guy's a 3rd, 4th option on a team and he's just slowly working his way into the offense, the next game he's not going to be the number 1 guy dominating. So he might have a little more of a presence. But obviously, I think they're setting it up so it could look like Popovich is building yet another big man. So I don't expect him to go nuts to start the season. I think his career, like I said, will be more like Giannis. That being said, they'll still be a good team, I think. Like I said, I think the Spurs will be like the 10 seed, a play-in team. But in this game, I like the Rockets for the cover. These next two I'm parlaying. I like the odds. It's about 6.25 to 1. And it's 2 dogs. A lot of people don't put 2 dogs in a parlay. I think Vegas kind of knows this and does their best to get the lines exact so they can like match up with how people pick. A lot of people will pick a dog and then like a favorite, and I get it. But I like the Nets to beat the Mavs. Luka sells all the time. I could definitely see him selling to the Nets. They did cover their last game against the Spurs, but I've seen a ton of games like this last year where the Mavs just should have won and they sold it. Now, they might be a better team this year. I actually think they're going to be a much better team this year. But it doesn't mean that their record's going to be tremendously better. I just think they're going to at least get out of the first round, maybe even get to the Western Conference Finals. But I don't think that they're going to just win every game. I think Luka's still going to sell. He had a triple-double, and they still almost didn't cover, so it's very easy for him to cover, blow the cover. And for only 6 points, it's not that big of a spread, so I could see a lot of people on the Mavs money line. So I like the Nets to win, and that's parlayed with the Jazz to win because, I think the Clippers are, if you look at them, a much better team. I just think more of the public's going to be on them. Jazz at home, they're one of the teams I like to force the narrative. They're really good at home. So I like the Jazz here and the Nets in a parlay. Staying away from the Blazers, just kind of want to see what they do with them and the Magic. With teams they don't really focus on, it takes a little longer to see what they're doing with them. They're kind of like the Pistons. Just a few teams I just did. Raptors are another one. Bulls. Some of them, and we are playing the Pistons game obviously because of the Hornets. But my point is, there's a lot of teams. Cavs are another one that I just feel like they don't go into a lot, and they're harder to read. So Magic and Blazers both fit that right now this year, in my opinion. So I'm just staying away from that. And the last one is my contingency for Heat. If we lose the Heat, we're going to make this a leg 3 for 4 units. If we win the Heat, it's going to be a leg 1. It's just going to be its own new sequence. We could play it as a leg 2, I suppose, for another earlier game that might miss, but we don't know. Who knows? We might run the table. And if we close this leg 2, I don't want to get greedy and just rush another leg 2. We can always pick our spots. And I'm going to show the money aspect in a second, like I said. That way, it'll be easier for you guys to see, but I wanted to at least go over all the teams first. So last is Warriors-Kings. I got the Kings covering for the 2.5. And I like it because Steph just signed De'Aaron Fox to his... De'Aaron Fox. I think it's De'Aaron Fox. He just signed him to his shoe deal. So he's the first active player to sign a sponsorship, if you will, or he's really the face, but to sign a shoe deal with another active player. So you might think, well, he's going to let his boss win. But since Steph's on his way out, I think it stands to reason Fox looks pretty dominant right after getting the shoe deal. And I think it's some foreshadowing of some torch passing. So I like the Kings for this cover. Also because, again, typically you're not going to have on doubleheaders. We got the Heat Celtics and Warriors Kings. You're not going to have both away underdogs win. Not that it can't happen, but just the reason I do my system this way and I specifically pick my leg 2, leg 3s is because I think more often than not we're not going to miss on both. We've split on all of them this year, so again, it'd be better to go 2-0, of course, but if we're going to split it, I'd rather make it where we're either going to close it out on leg 2 or on leg 3. So as I went into, makes it a little easier, but I wanted to cover all the games. The Thunder beating the Cavs is going to be a leg 2. Like I said, you're getting plus 125. So the profit will be more than 1 unit if we get this, which is nice because we really only want to profit 1 unit. That's our goal for each sequence. We missed the Lakers cover Suns, if you remember. Obviously, we just missed it. They only covered the 5. So I got Celtics covering the Heat here as a leg 2. If the Celtics do not cover the Heat, this is what I was going in my Discord, then we will play the Kings cover the Warriors. It's 2.5. I did correct that. Kings is 2.5. But it's 2.5, so we're playing that only if we lose the Celtics game. If the Celtics win, not win, if the Celtics cover and we win that, then that's a unit profited because we won 2 units and we lost the 1, a net of 1. And we just play the Kings cover as a new sequence, leg 1 for 1 unit. So pretty simple. We're only playing it as a leg 3 if we don't get the leg 2 Celtic game. And if we do get the Celtics, it's a leg 1. So Hornets, I have them covering the Pistons. That all the ones that I went into are going to be leg 1s. So nothing crazy. And as I said, the parlay that I like is right here. I like the Nets to win and the Jazz to win. Again, we got 3 cracks at it, so I like to take the parlays as leg 1s, sometimes leg 2s, but in this case I did it as a leg 1. And yeah, so to get 6 1/4 1, I think we're going to have a really good chance on this one. You'll probably also have hedge opportunity, although I usually don't hedge. It just kind of diminishes your gains. It is guaranteed profit, but at the end of the day, the value of the parlay is going to stand stronger. So I like these 2 for the parlay, and like I said, we're playing basically every game. And yeah, the Kings is 2.5, but it doesn't matter. I still like the cover. So I think most of you guys understand. Again, when I say leg, it doesn't relate to parlays. It just means how many units. So no different than saying level. I know a lot of people call it a level system or a ladder system. But yeah, so the first rung, maybe I'll start saying rung. I think rung rolls off the tongue a little better. The first rung is going to be, well, actually the second rung, because it's for the Lakers Suns loss, is going to be the Boston Celtics to cover the Heat. If it loses, the third rung, which will be 4 units, twice as much, is going to be the Kings to cover. And should we hit the second rung with the Celtics, we just play the Kings to cover as a first rung of a new sequence. So yeah, we'll see how we do tonight. I think we'll have a good night. I had a small window, so I'm glad I was able to get this video out. Tonight I'll have some more time, so I'll be able to get out of college, and I'll be going into the NFL. And I did see a guy or two that did say, I went into my hockey last video, we just got the Ducks over the Bruins. It almost paid 3-1. So like, it's crazy just playing. The only reason I played it was because if you look at them, Bruins great against the spread. They were undefeated. Ducks sucked against the spread. We also put 4 units on the over, and that wound up hitting in a ridiculous fashion. So Ducks really helped us out, and that would be our 4th sport. So I mean, I'll try and cover whatever I can. I only bring it up because it's such high profit. So a few people mentioned it. If you if you guys want, I will start doing hockey. I just wanted to see if people are going to want to watch it. If not, obviously I understand. If you're simply tailing my picks, then I'm guessing you want to see hockey because the plus value is just crazy. So yeah, I think I like our split today. I got, if you notice, a good chunk of home teams covering, but I picked enough away teams where it's not a crazy split. I try and make it where it's never, 10, 11 of the 12, 13 games being an away or home team. I try and split it about 75-25 at worst, because they do usually split. What's interesting is this football season, this football week, I should say, I think every home team won except 1 or 2. They had shown the results on ESPN, and I was like, oh wow, it was only like 2 away teams that won. But typically that doesn't happen, so I was looking at all the home teams, and I try and, if there's a 50-50 one, then, and I have too many home teams, then I'll usually pick an away team, and it usually works out. So yeah, I think we'll do good, especially using the system. For this video, the system is pivotal because between the plus odds and the contingencies, there's a reason I play, and it doesn't mean it's going to work out. We might lose them both. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but it really does optimize our chances of closing out sequences, guaranteeing ourselves a unit profit or more on that sequence, and then moving on. Whereas if we just pick 2 random games for leg 2 and leg 3, I feel like it's not as likely with the Celtics and the Kings. Like I said, usually you get a split. It's worked out the first couple times. We didn't get them both, but all we need is a split to profit. So that's the reason I use my system. We're not going to continuously pick. Well, right now we're 60% on the NBA season, very small sample size. A couple weeks in a row we've done 70% on the NFL. We probably will do 70% college basketball all year long. I hope I'm not overstating my hand, but based off how we did last year. But my overall point is, I look for the value, and if I can, I'd rather have a hit rate at 40%, but we're profiting, than a hit rate of 58% and we're not. And that's why the system's so important for people that want to tail. I would really recommend doing the level rung system, whatever you want to call it. So if you guys want my opinion on the World Series, I don't know. Honestly, I think Diamondbacks are going to win the World Series, just because they're a really crappy team who hasn't been there in a while. And I went into the fact a couple times. Philadelphia just played a Super Bowl in Arizona. Arizona beat the Phillies to go to the World Series in Philly. Not the World Series, but they beat them in Philly to go to the World Series. So I saw people talking about Scherzer shaming and things like that. So you never know. But I just think if they got this far, I don't see why the D-backs wouldn't win it. I know people were talking about George Bush's birthday and the Rangers, but I like the D-backs for that reason. So yeah, that's all the picks. I'll have my college ones out next. I didn't look into the metrics yet, but I'm sure there's a bunch that are good. I know there's a few teams that I like right off the bat, but I don't know all the spreads and things like that. I do know, actually, I did. I glanced at it, and I know we have like four underdogs. So, again, we might. They're two of them are pretty heavy. I can't remember. I think I have Kansas and another team, but I'll have to relook at it. But they just looked fishy, and it looked like potential upsets in my opinion. I think they're ranked teams and things like that. So there's a reason I like them, but I'll have to look at it all. So I'll have college out. I just wanted to get the NBA out in the window I had and try and cover every game that we're playing in detail. So take care, everybody, and happy earnings.